Showtime.
I think we're episode 140 or 139.
138? No,
139.
139.
139.
Yeah.
We're like up on Spotify. We're up on YouTube. We're up everywhere, man. Like we are on top
Everywhere
of it.
except for Apple Podcasts, which people have complained to me about.
Really?
Who complained to you about this?
I can't win.
You can't win. I'll start complaining about this.
Literally the one of the two places that they don't just make it easy to upload your podcast for some reason. People are like, why are you on Apple Podcasts?
What's the other one? What else do you struggle with?
The one that nobody cares about.
Okay.
No, Anchor's the platform. I think it's
Anchor.
Yeah, Stitcher. That's one of them. That's a big one.
Because Amazon, Spotify, and
I think as long as you hit Spotify, you hit like 89% of everyone.
Yeah. There's it's called like Sharkbite. There's some other podcast app.
What hipster motherfucker is listening to his podcasts on Sharkbite? He's like, oh no, I don't use Stitcher, I don't use Spotify, I don't use SoundCloud. I use Sharkbite.
I don't know.
Get out of here.
Well, there used to be a ploy to like move to your own podcasting. Like it's not called Sharkbite. It's called like Shark something, where they were like paying people. Is it Sharkbait? They were paying people to transfer their podcasts over, and then Spotify did it, and then Spotify kind of just took over all of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, welcome back to the Sidescape Gaming Podcast, episode 139. I'm your host, Jake Burke, and I'm joined, as always, by James St. Charles and Ted Lewis Libby. That's your real middle name.
I'd like to be called Sharkbite.
Sharkbite. From here henceforth, you shall be known as Sharkbite. I have a question for you before we really kick this show into motion. All right, before I regale a tale for you all. Steam sales going on right now.
Yes.
What'd you buy at the summer Steam sale? The summer Steam sale.
Summer Steam sale. What have I bought?
What'd you buy? Yeah, what'd you buy? What do you recommend people buy?
Yeah. What do you buy?
Oh, what do I recommend people buy?
What have you bought? I'm just saying, what do you got? What you got?
Yeah. I bought BattleBit, which we're going to be playing.
Not on sale.
But it's not on sale, so it's like, it's not a good...
Not on sale, doesn't count.
Nope, that is a full price game I paid for.
There was a new Plate Up update, and I've been playing that, and that was good.
Okay.
God, I was going to buy some stuff today, but I didn't pull the trigger.
I didn't see a lot of like, wow,
And the thing is because what's top selling isn't really on sale, or is like free to play. But I guess what I'd recommend is Red Dead Redemption 2 is $20. Get Red Dead Redemption 2.
And it works on the deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Spider-Man is 33% off. Get Spider-Man Remastered. Also is amazing.
Does it play on the deck?
Yes, plays on the deck. Verified.
Whoa.
So Sony I think push a lot of their games to be verified.
Yeah.
They really tried hard with Last of Us. I don't know if I think they got it to verified.
I think it's now verified, yeah.
It wasn't verified when it first came out, yeah.
Yeah, once that goes on
Elden
sale,
Ring 30% off. Get Elden Ring if you haven't tried that out.
I saw you can get like every Valve, a lot of the Valve games, like almost all of the Valve back catalog for like $8 or something, or $7.
Oh yeah, if you don't have any of the Valve games, Portal, Half-Life, I mean they need a remaster badly, but Portal 2 still good. Try them out. Yeah, that's a not much, like nothing like I when I look at it. Dave the Diver, that's on sale for 10%. I've heard a lot of good things talking about this.
Getting great reviews.
Yeah, overwhelmingly positive. So
overwhelmingly positive reviews.
That's like it's amazing.
It's a lot of fun. Do recommend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ted, what is Dave the Diver? Really quick. Do you know what this loop is?
So it is. Do you guys remember the video game Moonlighter?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, it's a little bit like that. And I don't know the specifics. You are Dave, who is a diver, who goes underwater to catch fish, to then go up to surface and then sell it in your sushi restaurant.
Okay.
It's very tongue in cheek.
That's what I've heard.
Like you at no point are you like at all real fishing. Like you're harpooning fish and then you're like slapping the space bar to like reel them in.
Okay.
At one point, my roommate had a hammer and was just kathwonking fish. Yeah. You get like mines and you have to like encourage the fish to fly into your mine, like landmines.
Okay.
Sea mines. But then
blast fish.
But then you do the sushi selling bit, which are like kind of like Stardew Valley, where there's times a day and times of the year.
Yeah.
So there's different events and stuff like that. But all of the sushi bits are full of these story cutscenes that are all just redonkulous.
Huh.
Just insane. Just like your sushi chef just holds the sword in front of him and then the fish just like perfectly slices itself as it falls. It's very like One Punch Man anime silly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay. But enough about Dave the Diver, because this is the 139th episode of the Side Escape Gaming Podcast, where once a week we Discord over 500 miles talk about a gaming-related topic and what game we are playing. Like this week. We're also on Spotify, SoundCloud, but we're not on Stitcher, and we're not on Sharkbait, or Shark Tank, Shark Bite.
Sharkbait. Ooh.
Sharkbait. Ooh, okay. I brought this topic up at the very end of last show. We will also not have a show probably next week. We may surprise it, and then we will probably have our Final Fantasy 16 review the week after, or my Final Fantasy 16 review. So I talked about this at the end of last week. I proposed the question: are games just too big? Are they too much? Are they too much? We kind of talked about this a little bit last week with a few weeks ago with open world stuff with Jedi Survivor. But I'm playing Final Fantasy 16, and I just beat Tears of the Kingdom. First off, wow, is Tears of the Kingdom an incredible damn video game. And if Breath of the Wild's ending was kind of meh and underwhelming, the ending to Tears of the Kingdom is fucking fantastic.
Ooh.
And it is.
So that's what I felt was underwhelming, was the ending.
It is filled with such love and like style and just like little touches that are just great. And I really just can't believe how good Tears of the Kingdom is, and I will keep playing it. And it's just an amazing video game. And we will talk about it many, many times over the year. So that is a game that I put 105 hours in. So obviously I didn't feel that game was too much because I was just excited to do it. Jump to Final Fantasy 16. Final Fantasy 16 is an awesome video game. It's got a crazy ass fucking story, cool cutscenes, cool moments, and then it's also apparently trying to be an open world RPG. This game is not an RPG at all. You barely level up your character. There's no companions. You don't not even like in Final Fantasy VII Remake, James, where you would like add materia to your companions. You don't even do that. Okay. There are no companion work stuff. But there's like all of these little side quests and these side missions that are like just obvious filler to make it a video game.
Mm-hmm.
Where like I, as an adult, don't like that experience now because I don't need more hours in a video game just for it to be more hours.
Right.
And I feel like we kind of talk about this a lot with this like kind of filler aspect of games, or this like the game part of a game to make it worth that $70 price point or whatever it is. And I just really started to feel that in this Final Fantasy 16 game where I'm like enjoying the cutscenes and enjoying the story, and then like a big story moment happens and you come back to your little hideaway, is what it's called, like your little like, hub world. And it's like, all right, well, like, hey man, you got to go help out Martha for a little bit as we like build up this next device. And you're like, I got to go do like 4 quests for Martha.
Oh, it's a mandatory side quest.
Yeah, there are parts of the story that were mandatory side quests. And then there are parts where it's not mandatory. That. But like,
yeah.
And I thought it was really interesting too, because like in Final Fantasy VII Remake, same studio, I mean, different production leads and stuff, but like they really make a joke of like the old Final Fantasy fetch quest side quests of like, your first quest you get is like, go kill the rats. And you're like, oh God, I gotta go kill rats. And like, that's the point of that quest. Or like, this is like constantly like, oh, I need the berries from the farm up north. Like, if you're up north, bring me the berries. And you're like, yeah, I'll get you your berries. And it's like, man, that's all your side quests. You're like walking around and fetching and bringing them back to you. I don't know where I'm going with this, but what do you think of this deep, big, complex thing? I don't know how you feel about it. I don't know what. Diablo's a big game that came out this year too. Tears of the Kingdom.
So not really. I mean, yes, Diablo is a very big game, but what is out right now for you and I to play is actually pretty small. I think in our discussion of this, we'll start to see kind of like a last generation and a next generation thinking, where Diablo 4 is a live service game. They know what they're doing. And so the whole game is not available for you to play right now. It's a game for you to come back to, come back to over and over again as they slowly produce more content.
Can I ask you just a total side tangent question, but about Diablo 4? Do you have to like start a new character every time there's a new season or something?
So your character that you made, no, that part and a lot of the like expansion stuff, if there's any new story stuff, your same character will be there.
Okay.
If you participate in the season mode, yes, the whole point is that you start a new character every time there's a new season, but you're not playing season mode with story cutscenes. You're skipping all that stuff and you're just blasting through it to get the loot and to level up your character.
Gotcha. But so there was just articles I was reading. I was like, I'm very confused.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. One does not have to participate in the season mode. They can just have their main character and get all of the story kind of content out of it.
It's just like a different mode. And it'd be like, if you did that mode, you just start fresh, and then you grind it out, and you have a seasonal character, and then once you're done with the season, it'll transition to, like, a normal character.
Oh,
so
cool.
It's like, if you want to do it that way. But then you can just play with your already souped up person. And that's you could do the season, but, like, it won't be a seasonal character. So there's seasonal rewards for doing, like, leveling up.
Gotcha.
People love this. People love grinding from zero and doing it. And there's, like, optimal ways, and I want to get back to your initial point. So you're taking this from an angle of games are too big, but they're filling it with junk.
Yeah,
and I think I brought this up like super early, especially I'm gonna go back to Tears of the Kingdom, and I think we're gonna reference Tears of the Kingdom a lot because this is a game that is a big game, but not in size. In terms, it's a big game in terms of quantity, like of what it has in it. And it has side quests in it, but they're not shoving it in your face, and it's not mandatory. You'll just drop in, and randomly you're just in this battle, and you're like, "Hey, we need your help. Get over here." You're like, "Oh, okay. I guess I'm coming over. We're like gonna kill these bobkins and stuff." Or it's like, "Oh, I just randomly found this cave." I hate mandatory side quests, or it's like, "Hey, we gotta wait to get this part. You gotta go help
3
Martha
villagers
in the vineyard."
Yeah. Martha's Vineyard.
I think Jake is funny because you're kind of going back to what you were before Tears of the Kingdom, where you were kind of like, I'm done with open world. I'm not even gonna play Tears of the Kingdom before.
I remember that.
I think it's an episode. Yeah. I don't know if it was an episode or you just told me.
It
like,
wasn't an episode. Yeah.
And you're like, I don't know if I'm gonna play. I'm gonna take a break.
Sorry.
And but I think you're probably at that point too with when you have to do these quests, and the game is, I don't know, is it considered open world?
See, that kind of, it's like these open-ish spaces, but like they're pretty empty with like enemies, and like the game is fun to play, but like the spaces aren't interesting. And like it's just one of those games where I feel like Jedi Survivor, it has a lot of space, but it's not necessarily interesting at all times. And so like for me, like Zelda, it's an open, I mean, it's got so much space in Zelda, but it's like anything that you run into is usually pretty interesting. But like Final Fantasy 16, the story is, but not walking around the world and like there's like a blue light that's on the ground, and that's where you find an item. And like sometimes you just need to like go find an item out in the world and like walk over this blue light, got it, teleport back, and it's like, man, that's like, a few minutes where I just didn't need to have that amount of time to do this side quest for no reason but to progress. Yeah,
I think bad games, I guess failed games. Let's not say like a bad game. A failed game that is too big is kind of disheartening, especially for like a developer or creator who like pours in hours and time developing like certain sequences. And of course, it's like, hey, we need you to build this side quest. Maybe someone will like it, but I think there's a giant stigma that side quests suck. When in reality, they can be beneficial and add to the story as they do in Tears of the Kingdom. There's opportunity for a side quest to be fun, and I think Fallout is one of those where there's like little like side quests that are like really fun and interesting. And I foresee Starfield having those because like we got a little sneak peek at some funny stuff. I like an interesting side quest, and there's a point where I usually start doing them in a game, and if I see that they are just like fetch quests, which are by far like the worst ones I despise, I will stop doing them. And if it's mandatory, that might make me drop the game. I think that's uncalled for. Side quest should not be main quest. Of course, that's what I'm there for. I'm there for that game. Like, and if I'm paying for a game, and of course games are like $70, I don't want it filled with boring side quests. I'd rather have better main quests or longer main quests, maybe.
Yeah,
that's the thing.
Ted?
Yes, to your point about Fallout, I think that video games like Fallout 3 and Fallout New Vegas very much like they embody this idea that a side quest is kind of a short story in a story.
Yeah. Witcher is the same way.
Yeah, Fallout does this very well, where the premise of the game is very obvious. There's not a lot of nuance to the main story. I think we can all recount the main story of Fallout. It's in one sentence. That's not really the focus. But as you're running through this wasteland, you come across a situation that turns into an interesting little story. That at the end, completes a side quest, and then you get XP to level up your RPG character. I think more and more in video games, we're starting to see a situation. It's kind of the Ubisoft problem where the quest is coming before the content of the quest.
Yeah.
Where you'll show up at a town, there will be 7 check marks. They all are telling you these things. So you get 7 quests all at the same time. And then it ends up being kind of, as we're talking about, filler nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't like, I have a really interesting idea for a character in this world to be doing something. Let's make a side quest out of it. It's like, I need a side quest. What's this character do? He shoots things. Let's go make a side quest where you shoot things.
Yeah. Yeah. That really felt like Horizon Forbidden West. Mm-hmm. That felt very much like that kind of monotony of side quests of like, well, this is an open world game, so we gotta have like 6 side quests in this city because it's like a major city. So like,
right,
what are the 6 people? Probably one's for food, one's for hunting, and it's like, I just did 5 food quests in the other city because you had to have that kind of. Yeah, I wonder. It's like an obligation to the player almost to pad it out, which I feel like
it feels very much like an older MMORPG where part of that game is the grind, if you will. And so again, to this point of you go into your town at the level 10 stage, you pick up all your level 10 quests, you complete all your level 10 quests, and that gets you to level 15, which then lets you go to the next town to get your next level 15 quests. World of Warcraft, the quests, and I'm thinking more initially when you were playing that game in 2004, the quests didn't come to you. You went to the quests and you were doing them solely to fill up an XP bar. That was the loop at the time. And Jake, if you're going into a PlayStation third-person action story game, leveling up your XP bar is probably not your priority number one.
Right.
And so why does the quest reflect that?
Yeah, and I think that is an issue with just RPGs have just influenced every game possible almost to a point where like it's all about customizing and leveling up something or getting the next boots or sword thing or whatever. And I just feel like that is often great and it pads out games and makes it feel very personal, but I feel like it can really detract from an experience that's so clearly developed and then made into a video game. Like this story for Final Fantasy 16 is like rad. Like it is this cool Game of Thrones-esque like medieval magical adventure and revenge tale and everything. And then I've also got to do the RPG-ish bullshit stuff that is that almost takes away from what's should be the driving force of the game. I think that's why the Resident Evil games are so great. The recent remakes is that they are so. There is not a lot of fluff in those games. Like really, like they are just you move through.
And there's some fun fluff in those games.
Yeah, and the fluff is good fluff. It's engaging things that's in there rather than just like fluff for fluff's sake.
Right.
Yeah. Like, the player's not going to be happy if it's not a 20-hour experience. So add a couple more quests.
That's going to be to the detriment of a lot of these games that are being predicted in the sense they're going to have like 7-8 year cycles of work. And this game is going to be like, this is going to be your full-time job to play this game. And I think a lot of working adults like ourselves are probably just going to bow out and be like, nope, that's just too much for me. I'm not going to spend 200 hours playing this game.
Right.
And then maybe you'll see some shorter games that are like 8 hours, 10 hours. What I don't want to happen though is that a game needs to be 200 hours and to be $70 or something like that.
Right.
Like it's like if it's not a lot of time that I'm going to be spending in this game, then I don't want to spend $70 if this game is like 20 hours.
Right.
That's going to be pretty poor.
And James, you've segued into one of my big points. You pretty much hit the nail on the head where for a long time, and even still to this day, video games need to justify their purchase to you.
Right.
There is this ongoing statistic that you see over and over again that the average gamer, if you will, is 2 things, right? They are an unemployed, underage child, if you will. They have nothing but time. or, I shouldn't say or, but they buy the mythical 4 video games per year, right?
Mm-hmm.
Call of Duty, sports game, and then they have 2 other options. And those 2 other options have to cover like 6 months worth of time.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's not going to, and again, I'm speaking more of like a games marketer, not an actual customer.
Yeah.
But it has to, our video game has to fill that 6 months of the player's time because they're only going to buy this game. And if it doesn't fill their time, they're going to talk negatively about it.
Yeah. And then we won't make another one.
Right. And so we hear a lot about video games needing to be this big, which is something that I've really kind of come to disagree with. A point that I want to bring up to you, and I just want to hear you guys' thoughts, is last year's 2022's Marvel's Midnight Suns.
Yes.
A game with a really concise core game loop, and then 50 hours of talking to people, 50 hours of wandering around your base, chit-chatting with various characters in a classic RPG sense, to level up your cards and to get back in the quests or to get back in the game. Something where I genuinely am on the lookout for a update that's like skip the story mode and just play the card game.
A Midnight Suns mod that like just takes it all out.
Yeah, just lets you make your decks.
Just
removes
defluffs it of like, you don't have to do the side quest chit-chatty parts. You don't have to build your relationships with Blade.
You play.
Sorry, Blade.
No, Blade and Captain Marvel are like trying to date each other, but they don't know how to ask each other out, and you try to mitigate that.
Well, and this is where the conflict comes from of like, on the one hand, you've made a really interesting card game and added 50 hours of fluff. Or did you make a really interesting like Marvel superhero relationship game with
add a card game
with a neat card game on the side? Like, and that's kind of the problem of like, what are your priorities as a gamer?
Yeah.
And because I think all 3 of us are on the same page of like, our priorities are not to spend $200 or 200 hours on a video game over 2 months.
I want to spin off that because you brought up card game or like, the base game for Midnight Suns, and then you have this like dialogue loop. That reminds me of like when people started playing Witcher 3 and then they just only did Gwent. Like they just went to Gwent and they only wanted to get cards for Gwent and they only wanted to play Gwent and they just went from town and battled people in Gwent. And then, of course, the studio took note of that and we're like, all right, we'll just make this game a separate game. And that to me is, I think, lacking from a lot of like studios where it's like, maybe you have like something that works really well and they're like, we won't separate it. We're going to just keep bundling it with stuff that's like really bad. Not to say there's anything really bad at Witcher, but with Midnight Suns, it's like you have really poor dialogue with really bad voice actors, like not too good, like some are good. And it's a little bit cringe at sometimes. It's just like, it's like out of place for what your game is. And I think when you have something that removes you from the game, like you're talking, Jake, with Final Fantasy, you have probably a really good, compelling main story, and you want to get back into it with really good action sequences. And these are really boring, detracting, no world building side quests.
Yeah. You know what's actually really interesting? Yeah. This game too also marks the side quests that are important that give you extra stuff. They are separated.
Like the important versus the non-important.
Yeah, there are just like side quests, and then there are like do these side quests.
And I don't think, like, Jake, I'd say out of all of us, you're probably the most completionist out of us, and that you're completionist for Zelda games.
Yeah, that is true.
But I think we're probably of the same mind when you play a game and you don't want to just like slog through like these really poor. You're just not gonna go for a completionist.
I love like in Resident Evil, that feeling of like in Resident Evil 4 specifically, like really exploring each nook and cranny to see like what I could better equip my Leon Kennedy with.
Yeah.
Where like in Final Fantasy, and that's like a great reward to me. It's like I found like this little locker that had this gunpowder, and like maybe Ted didn't find that, and now like I'm better off in this situation. That's really cool to me. But like with Final Fantasy, it's like I get to the story mean it's awesome, and then it's like I'm never rewarded for like going off the beaten path. Like I'm never rewarded for like checking out a corner. It's always like I picked up a crafting material which I don't really craft, so why do I care about this? And that I think is like that separation is where you can kind of feel like almost like a war of two games in a way. Yeah. Of like they wanted to make a straight Devil May Cry, game, that then they had to maybe make it an RPG that with all this kind of expanded stuff because it's Final Fantasy. And that's like a weird franchisation of like it's always got to be bigger and better.
Yeah. I don't think this is the proper term, but it's and now I can't even think of it. It's that like feature, it's not feature creep, but it's this idea, right, that like a game comes out and it has crafting and the people love it. And then, a marketing or a large executive goes, well, we need crafting in our game.
Yeah.
And you go, well, our game's not really it's about crafting. It's like, yeah, but crafting sells,
Crafting's big right now. Yeah.
Right. And then that's how crafting ends up in Dead Space.
Right.
A game that doesn't really need it. But even now, 10 years after the fact, crafting is still in video games.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Crafting is in the new Hogwarts game.
Yeah.
Like it is there. It is there to stay. If you are making a AAA budget, like a big budget AAA game, you are probably going to have crafting, whether it makes sense or not.
Right.
And you throw in crafting, you throw in side quests. You start to get all of these things to where all of a sudden you're ballooning your game out to 200 hours when it really didn't need to be that way.
Well, and Hogwarts is a perfect example of this kind of more to have more, despite it being well thought out. I mean, forever we will talk about the balloons. I mean, the balloons on a broom to get more brooms is like, that's the best-selling video game of the year. That's like a main quest line of it, is popping balloons on your broom.
I don't mean to defend Hogwarts.
Don't do it.
Because the room of requirement stuff, the crafting, where you build, it's like neat. Like
sure.
If I was a store, like the guy who wrote that down is like, we could have the room of requirement be for crafting.
Great idea.
Sure, great idea. It turns into like what, 4 potions?
Yeah, you plant a mandrake
and 2 equipables.
Yep.
Like a mandrake in the other one. That's it.
Yep.
Like it doesn't go anywhere, it doesn't make any sense.
As someone who beat it as a dark wizard, because I was so like I just could not. I just wanted to like get rid of this game. So I was like, yep, I'm going dark wizard. I'm gonna pick up all the kill curses. I'm gonna go for it.
Yeah.
And then at the end, it's like, okay, yeah, I'm at the end. I'm gonna beat the game, and it just like patronizes you for beating the game not as a completionist. It's like, ooh, very light here. Ooh, you didn't go to all these classes. You didn't look at every single nook and cranny, and you didn't do all these little side quests. And it's like, I don't care.
Yeah. You didn't compel me to do it. But then
fuck. Yeah.
You again look at like another game that came out in 15 years ago now, Mass Effect 2, and every like main side quest in that game is like super important and compelling, and it's about the characters, and it's so like driven out of a necessity for story rather than like, we gotta have 8 missions with Garrus, so here you go. Like they're all like these really well thought out tales of these characters that are also just side quests. And then they have effects later on in the game rather than just being told you're a bad wizard, Yeah.
I'm gonna go. You go.
So I'll bring up my second point, which I think is more of just an overarching issue as to why we're kind of feeling the stress, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just that fucking so many games are coming out.
Yeah.
This is kind of an overarching problem. We don't need to belabor it too much. But like,
it's a pandemic issue. Games are coming out because, of course,
not even that. Like every large company that used to be at E3 promises multiple AAA, which means 100 hours games per year.
Yeah.
And to my knowledge, it's one of those things where I could go back and play Fallout 3 years after it came out, because there wasn't an RPG of that caliber necessarily. I'm sure there was. I'm sure there's things I'm omitting and missing. But like the general sense of things, like Jake, by the time you were telling me whether or not I should play Jedi Survivor, Tears of the Kingdom was already out.
And now we're at Final Fantasy
we're
16.
past that. We're past that. Now it's up to Final Fantasy. So if you are the kind of person who wants to keep up with what is coming out, on the weekly, like you can't put 100 hours into your game and then also be buying a new game every week.
Yeah.
It's a struggle even to do that per month.
Yeah, and even with just like titles that are not even just trying to keep up current, but like stuff that's interesting. We're in this like, especially this year is like hit after hit, but it's like you're just in this like, man, all these games are, over 20 hours to 80 hours and more, and it's like a lot of time that you just gotta sink into to be in this
job.
Yeah, I got a job. I got a wife.
Gotta make money.
I got a cat.
And I think it's kind of too much strain on our attentions.
Yeah,
just generally speaking. Yeah. I've got a job. I've got a wife or a girlfriend, but also like I have TV shows that I'm keeping up on.
That's a problem too.
Yeah.
There's 9 million TV shows.
Book.
Yeah.
So there is just a lot of entertainment in this current era, and I think video games getting bigger is not helping that situation at all.
I think it's actually like putting me off on some games. Like I'll go in for like a quick game here and there that's like gonna maybe take up like an hour of my time. Then spend hours and hours progressing through a slog of side quests and main story, and I would prefer just going straight main story, but then when you have like this stuff that distracts you, it just is gonna make me put off the game even more.
Yeah,
I'd be like, oh, I don't want to go and do that. Let me, I'll just, and then you get to the point where you're like, I'm just never gonna return to it. And I think that was to me with Cyberpunk, but it wasn't because of side quests. It was because the game wasn't functioning.
Right,
but Cyberpunk is the game that I was thinking of too, of like a game that I have consistently said I would love to go back to.
Yeah, me too.
But I have never felt the time to start a 40 to 60 hour project.
Yep.
Maybe after the show.
That you've already done some of.
Right.
That I've done.
I would start from scratch.
I've done 15, 20 hours of that game.
Like I've done 10 hours, and it's like I don't want to restart, but I definitely don't remember what I was doing.
Right.
And I think I wanted to bring up this other interesting series, which is probably one of my favorite series, and I think a watcher of the show, listener of the show, Gunnar really likes that I turned him on to, is Yakuza, and I think that game has a really great main story, but a bunch of side quest stuff that you don't have to do. None of it is mandatory, but they're fun and they're funny, and sometimes they have these like little like quest lines that like, hey, you help this guy like find this person who's like flashing people, and it's hilarious. But you just play mini games. That's great.
The Yakuza series does it right, I would say, in that they have a theme where a lot of their side quests are going to be goofy bits, one-off jokes, kind of silliness, and where you're more going into it for the comedy. You're not going into it solely because you're trying to increase your XP bar or because the combat is so good that you just want to keep doing it. Usually there's jokes involved.
There's this really interesting component of the game where I mean, you're Yakuza. It's like the old games you just beat up people. But there's this guy. His name is Mr. Shakedown, and he's really just randomly roaming the map. And you'll just be like turning a corner, and you'll see this big guy, and you're like, okay, I gotta run the other way. Don't have to because if you're sitting on some money, he'll come and like shake you down. He'll beat you up.
That's fun.
You could beat him up, but he's like really, really tough. So if you're sitting on a lot of money, just like go deposit it and make sure he doesn't shake you down.
I love
but he'll just like pop up randomly. You just like walk around a corner, and this big guy, and he's like. He's gonna fight you.
That's great. See, that like makes the world living and interesting. That's so nice.
Fallout has that too. Like Fallout has like just these little like random events. Like I guess a death claw would be considered like a Mr. Shakedown. Like just random. Like this is gonna fuck me up. And it's that one's in Yakuza's sense is funny. In Fallout or even like Skyrim, like a dragon just coming out of nowhere. Like games have kind of definitely gotten bigger, but they've gotten too serious for themselves. And I think we need to like dial back down, like, hey, you're playing a video game. If you're gonna do a side quest, like make it at least, fun.
Yeah.
Don't make it like a tedious grocery shopping list.
Right.
Fetch.
A fetch. Right. So go bring this to this. Get me the milk and eggs.
Yeah. So I do want to say that there is, and I mean, Ubisoft has made all of their money off of this for 10 years. Yeah. There is a certain group of a person who enjoys the shopping list style video game of like a Far Cry, where like I just have my animals to kill and my bases to capture, and I'm just going to check them off one by one. That is very cathartic to people. I don't want to disparage that. I think, but there is space for those kinds of games to exist.
Yeah,
a lot of them under Ubisoft. But I do think you're right that like we need to readdress this like feature bloat, where it's like, does crafting need to be in your game? If you're making a story-based first-person shooter about espionage, do we really need a side quest?
Yeah.
At all. You know what I mean? Or like, do we really need to have these relationship conversations, in this modern military shooter? Like,
yeah.
I think we need to readdress our themes. And I think some of the games that you guys might think of is like, even if you've spent 1,000 hours playing it or just played it once and said that's a really good time, it's probably because what you did and the themes of the game were right on track the entire time.
I think so, and I think you're right. Like, I think a big kind of thing we just constantly talk about in video games and in movies now, especially too, but it's like sequelization. It's this franchise that everything's a part of a series, and with games, they all come out 5 years after, and it's got to be the bigger and better sequel. So it has to be more. It can't be just like what it was.
Or the yearly.
Yeah.
Like Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, or like I mean, Assassin's Creed is the game that just has to be more every time. I mean, it's just now, and then it got to a point where it was too much and nobody wanted to keep going into it. But I think like you see, like even if a game is amazing, I mean, Uncharted 3, when Uncharted 3 came out, it is very similar to Uncharted 2. I mean, gameplay wise, it's like very close. And that was like disappointing to a lot of people. Now they just made like another Uncharted 2, and it's like, but they told a story and it's like a great adventure just with the same characters, and it's like that wasn't enough for gamers either. So it's like there is that push and pull at the audience of like, at what point do you expect more and have to and are almost honored to give that, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, you still have to satisfy your customer base, like, and then you can't just come out with more of the same. Which sucks, because it's like sometimes like all I want is more of the same. Like when I think about Warzone, it's like if they just made Warzone exactly like how it was, perfect. I would have loved that. And it said they didn't, and then they had to like do some other stuff with it. And of course, like you can tweak all that, you can change, you can update. But I think you're gonna get that experience right when you play it. I'm not gonna wait around for an update a year later that's gonna like completely change everything. Most of the time, I don't go and replay it like a single player like story experience if I know what's going on. Unless it's something like maybe like a Fallout or something where it's like I could try a different like build. But yeah, like I know there's replayability with stuff. Tears of the Kingdom is gonna be a perfect example of that, where you're just gonna be able to play that forever almost until the next one. There's this. I think there's this notion with studios now where they want to be the new, bigger and better thing. Also, I feel like there's like this push between Sony, Microsoft to like come out with the game. Like it's like this is the game. Microsoft especially. Like they're really trying for like something that's going to be like a staple for their IP. They have nothing. I mean, Halo just like, I think I just read this past week, it's like 2% of its all-time high on Steam.
Yeah.
That's
no
crazy.
One's playing it on Steam.
Yeah,
to be fair, I don't own Halo on Steam.
Right, but I mean, there's a lot. There was to be 2% of the all-time high.
People bought 2% Halo on Steam, like a decent portion of people.
So for a 98% drop off of all the people who bought Halo Infinite. Crazy.
That very much speaks to I think the current times of like we have very small attention spans. I more and more often, as I'm trying to look to indie games to kind of fill this void, because I think indie games is kind of the answer here, where they don't have the money or the time to make 100-hour games.
Right.
They have to, an indie game by definition almost has to be short, concise, it's to the point. But so often with indie games, especially the multiplayer ones, they are just dead on arrival. They never get a player base to start. They come out, people talk about it for 4 days, and then something else comes out and they're forgotten in the wind. And that's kind of the end of it. You know what I mean? I've noticed this Steam sale is the very first time where I'm starting to see, not very first time, but you're starting to see a lot of video game bundles being advertised. And I mean advertised outside of Steam, the marketplace, of like, click this button and buy 22 games for $10. And you're like, you look at that and you're like, that's a good deal.
A lot of games. When am I ever going to play that?
I don't need 22 games.
I bought all the Double Fine collection on like a Humble bundle, and I have yet to play a Double Fine game for more than an hour on Steam.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I'm never actually going to go back and play the Double Fine games. Because it's just, who's got the time?
That's the thing. It's like, if
you make the time, Double Fine makes good games.
As we get older, I like definitely like strongly value my time, and work takes up like definitely a significant portion of our times.
Too much time.
Significant others, or like if you're going on vacation or something like that, and you're probably not going to want to like dedicate a lot of your free time to like playing 200 hours of some game. You'd rather get like a nice short, concise 8-hour experience that's going to be like just as good.
I was thinking about this fairly recently. This is a little bit off topic, but hear me out. I would love to know where are these large companies getting their figures for what people play. I was I was deep in a Reddit thread. Don't ask me why I was there. And I came across people talking about how often they play NBA 2K. Like they're on a daily schedule. And one of the ones that I read was like, I play ranked competitive 2K, 2 hours every weeknight, and then a combination of 10 hours at some point between Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And so he says, I play about 14 to 16 hours a week, every week consistently since 2K12 or whatever. Been playing for a long time.
Yeah.
And I was just scratching my head of like, that is a lot of time to play one video game. I'm sure this person maybe doesn't play anything else. This is their jam. No pun intended. But like, I would love to see what, 2K or what Blizzard well, maybe not Blizzard, what these companies think like a gamer should play, because that must be influencing why Assassin's Creed Valhalla is 200 hours of story content. Right? They must have gotten feedback year after year of like there are people who play these for that many hours.
They must have gotten feedback on like how Odyssey, Assassin's Creed Odyssey did in terms of hours played, to be like, well, they want more of that. They want double what we just gave them.
Yeah, I would absolutely love to know, because I am starting to feel like I am in something of a minority of gamers in that I don't dedicate the time as the way some people do. Kind of like these people in the Diablo forums who are like, they're done. They've 100%ed Diablo 4.
Crazy.
And they're like, there's nothing left to do. I have to wait for the next update. This is insane. And I'm over here like, I just beat the story.
Yeah. They're like sitting like 45. Thanos at the end of Infinity War, just waiting for more Diablo.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously, Diablo players can be pretty insane.
Yeah.
They're very dedicated to their game. But there is definitely a difference between me and them. And I would love to know kind of what the people who are making money off this want out of their customers.
That's interesting. Yeah. Or like what they feel like that $70 should be worth. Yeah, I mean, I have to set my alarm. I set it early in the morning to get up and play video games before I have to get ready for work, so I can like get an hour of gaming in just for sure. Just because who's got the time sometimes?
Yeah.
Just to kind of keep up with our podcast sometimes, like, well, I got to keep playing Final Fantasy to, do a show about it. So, yeah.
He's up in his like totally naked, just doing side quests.
Yeah, I'm like, oh god, I'm in Martha's Vineyard again.
He hits the alarm clock. Eye the Tiger starts playing. He gets in there. Gym clothes.
I just look at Maddie and I just go, I have to go. Hyrule needs
running
me.
on the treadmill with the PlayStation 5 controller. Just play.
He's got a kettlebell attached to his controller. He's holding it up.
That's how Parker played like all of Last of Us Part 2 was on an exercise bike, and he just pedaled like the whole time he played.
I have heard that story too of, I forgot who it was. Somebody played all of Batman Arkham City on an
exercise bike?
On an elliptical, yeah.
That's hard.
Elbowed the controller and just walked through it.
That's hard on an elliptical.
But hey, whatever gets it done, man.
No kidding, man. Any final thoughts on this kind of topic? Of just
games are too big. Indie games are going to be amazing.
I mean, everybody's different. But generally speaking, I would love to see the AAA, the big boys, start putting out more concise, kind of getting back to basics, if you will.
Yeah.
For a lot of these games, because the big ones are getting too big.
Maybe we're just out of touch. We're getting old.
Yeah. This is definitely old man yells at moon.
This is video games
are too damn big. Make them smaller.
It's like all the adults that are like, hey, they don't make Pokemon like they used to. It's like, no, they still do. You're just 40 now.
Where's the old Mario Karts?
Yeah. Well, like, James, did you ever beat God of War Ragnarok or like play more than 2 hours of it?
Okay. No, I did want to bring up God of War because I want to talk about the first one and how that like does it well with the side quests or this like kind of like fun little like banter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can't like speak too much on Ragnarok, but I'm assuming it's similar.
It is, but it's a game that I kind of felt, even I think at the time of playing it, we talked a little bit out of like it's a lot of like not fluff, but it's just like a lot of it's big for being bigger's sake, and like it.
And then the next game, what do you think? It has to be even bigger.
I know. It's got to be even bigger. You're going to, who knows? Spoilers on stuff that happens. But yeah, like it just has to be bigger and has to be better. And it's just a lot.
I like the aspect of, just go back, for Final Fantasy VII, like how they just split it up. Can you imagine just a giant Final Fantasy game? They just made like one game. Like, no, I like how here's like your part 1, here's your part 2 coming up. Then you'll have probably a part 3. God of War isn't like that because they're all kind of like it's even though they're like progressed like that, you're still gonna get like here's your God of War, here's your even bigger God of War, and then here's your giant God of War. That's probably gonna like seal the series or something.
Yeah. I do have a quick question regarding this. Have either of you guys ever beaten, let's say, a backlog game, like a game number 1, and then immediately been like, all right, time to check out video game number 2?
Oh, me.
What game was that?
That was me with Rabbids. Because like I had to beat the first one to play the second one, and it didn't even fucking matter. So I told everyone, don't even touch the first one. Never play that game. Play the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Just not the answer I expected James to have. I was expecting something so serious. He's like, oh,
like,
Mario and Rabbids, the sparks of hope, man.
Yeah.
Sparks of Hope is amazing. One of the greatest like Switch games besides Luigi's Mansion 3. I turned a friend on to play it. I've actually never played another Luigi's Mansion except for 3.
James has not talked about a game on this podcast more than Luigi's Mansion 3. And I just think it needs to be said.
Just try it out. Come on.
Game of the generation for James St. Charles.
It's so good.
That's so funny.
I love that game.
I don't think I've ever done that, Ted. I don't think I've ever like backlogged a game and then gone right into the sequel.
I usually, this is very much a me preference. I'm usually burned out by the end of the first game. Like I at least in recent memory, maybe like a BioShock back in the day, but like, kind of one of those 14, 15 hour, kind of shooter RPG games. But I've never, beaten a 40-hour open world RPG and immediately was like, all right, hit the next one. Let's keep doing this. Because I know it's like, well, that doubles the hours I have to put in. So that's takes a 40-hour game to 80 hours. My character's going to get amnesia and lose all of their abilities again. Like at some point, if you are not on the train of like, I've played Spider-Man 1 and I'm ready for Spider-Man 2, it's like you have to make that call of like, do I just play Spider-Man 1 or do I skip it and play Spider-Man 2?
Right. Well, and the offshoot game, Spider-Man Miles Morales, because they have like a spin-off game that you should probably play as well, Is
that a spin-off? Is that still...
I mean, it's part of the main story. It's like...
Of 1, right?
Yeah, it's like a sequel to 1. Miles Morales is like a separate game.
Spider-Man 1.5?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. Peter Parker goes on vacation.
Nice. Okay.
And he's like, Miles, you got the city. And he's like, all right. Boom. Spider-Man Miles Morales.
Here are the keys. Take care of my city.
He actually hands him a key to the city. All right. Well, hey, that was the 139th episode of the Thesideescape Gaming Podcast. My name is Jake. That's James. That's Ted. We've decided games are just too damn big. And we will see you next week. Or the week after.
This was all just a huge ploy to tell people we haven't played any video games.
One point I wanted to keep it out of the show, but I did want to make it. Is
still recording, James.
Oh, good. Your time investment for shows are so minimal. It's like capped. Yeah. It's going to be maybe like 1 hour max, and you're going to watch your show like every week or so if it comes out once a week. The games increase. The shows will get bigger, but you still only invest that 1 hour or that one time per like episode. Yeah. But the game, you're gonna have to invest so much more time than like a series, unless you start from the beginning. Like if you just like, I want to watch the first season of House and then go all the way to like season 4 or something like that. That's a big investment.
Don't watch House.
But a brand new series that comes out, you're gonna start with episode 1, and then like episode 2, and then it's usually weekly.
I bet there's a film studies like topic about this very much thing of like, delayed TV show effect.
We're not getting like, here's your 2 hour episode this week. Oh, you ready for that 5 hour episode that's coming out? Like, no, it's like you're getting your 1 hour, you're getting your 45-minute every single time. That's what
they just announced like the next season of the show, each episode will be 6 hours long.
Yeah, exactly. They don't do that. They figured it out.
Some episodes are half an hour.
Yeah,
some hours are 7-hour sessions.
Give me like an episode a week of a video game. Just like you only get 1 hour, and then we'll release the next.
To do that, then they just couldn't release them on time.
Yeah, but that was like a story game. Like, give me like an actual like game. Is like, hey, you'll sit.
Hitman did that, and it was to great success.
True. It was so good that then they released. It was so good, Ted, that then they released Hitman 3 all at the same time.
Yeah,
it really worked out for them.
Here's what they do though: they figure that everyone liked that, and then it's like, hey, pay $10 right now, and you can unlock the next chapter right away.
There it is. Yeah, and then you could just pay $60 to play the whole game right away.
Jake, cut it before the marketing people hear this.